deal with the shadow. Alexander Kuzmin was an ordinary man living in a small town on the outskirts of Russia. He had a modest job in a local office, a small apartment, and a life that seemed to offer nothing but monotonous days. But deep inside, Alexander harbored an unquenchable fire, a burning desire to escape poverty and become rich, famous, someone who would be respected and acknowledged. He tried everything, investing in dubious schemes, working 2 jobs, hoping to win the lottery, but luck always seemed to evade him. His frustration grew with each passing day until one evening, after yet another rejection at a job interview, Alexander uttered words that would set off a dark chain of events. "I would give anything to change my life," he sighed, lying on his couch in the dim light of his apartment. In that moment, something strange happened. The room suddenly grew cold, and the light from the lamp began to flicker. It was as if the shadows on the walls started moving on their own. A chill ran down Alexander's spine, and he sat up, looking around. "Are you truly willing to give anything?" a voice whispered, deep and eerie, like the sound of wind rustling through ancient branches. Alexander froze. Before him, emerging from the shadow, was the figure of a tall man dressed in an old-fashioned suit, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. "Who are you?" Alexander asked, trying to hide his fear. "Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is that I can grant your wishes. You want wealth, fame, power? I can give you all of that. But in return, I will take what is rightfully mine, your soul." The figure stepped closer, and Alexander felt the cold intensify. He knew he was standing at a crossroads, one not to be taken lightly. But desperation had taken hold, and his desire to change his life outweighed the fear of the unknown. "All right," Alexander said, his voice trembling, but he forced himself to speak clearly. "If you can make me rich and successful, I agree." The figure nodded, and the darkness around them thickened. Alexander felt cold fingers brush against his hand, and the darkness seemed to swallow him whole. Before his eyes, images flashed: gold, jewels, luxurious houses, cars, people bowing before him. His life seemed to burst into brilliant light, full of splendor and luxury. When Alexander came to, he was sitting in his armchair, in the same room, but everything looked different. The furniture was new, expensive, the walls adorned with paintings by famous artists, and stacks of money lay on the table. He jumped up, unable to believe his eyes. The view from his apartment, now a penthouse, overlooked the city. His phone rang, displaying the name of a well-known businessman offering him a partnership. Alexander quickly plunged into his new world, a world of wealth and success. Everything he had ever wanted came true. His companies thrived, he bought the best houses, drove expensive cars, and traveled the world. He became a prominent figure in society, invited to the best events, surrounded by the most influential friends. Years passed, and all was well until one night, in his house in Switzerland, he heard a familiar whisper. "It's time to pay your debt, Alexander." He jumped out of bed and saw the same figure in the old-fashioned suit standing in the corner of the room. "You promised me your soul, and I have come to collect it." The voice was calm, but there was an unyielding power in it. Alexander felt terror seize him. He realized that all his wealth and success had been only temporary and that now he had to pay the highest price. "Wait," he cried out. "I'm ready to pay, but not now. Give me more time." The figure smiled coldly. "You knew the terms of the deal, Alexander. You agreed yourself. Your time is up." Alexander was desperate, but suddenly, an idea struck him. He remembered the words his grandmother often repeated during his childhood: "Never forget that true wealth is not in money, but in what you have inside. It is your heart and soul." "Wait," Alexander said, his voice trembling, but a spark of hope appeared in his eyes. "You said my soul belongs to you, but that's not entirely true. A man can always change his fate, right? I'm willing to give up everything I have if you leave my soul." The figure pondered, then nodded. "This is something new," he said. "But I accept your offer. You will return everything you received and be left with nothing, but your soul will be free." Alexander felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He knew he had made the right choice, albeit belatedly. Darkness enveloped him once again, and when it dispersed, he found himself back in his old apartment, with cracked walls and worn, tattered wallpaper. All his wealth, all his fame, were gone. But Alexander felt a sense of lightness and peace inside. He stepped outside and breathed in the fresh air, feeling free. In the following months, Alexander began a new life. He no longer chased after wealth but started helping others, using his knowledge and experience. He opened a small charity organization that helped people in difficult life situations. Fame found him again, but this time not as a wealthy businessman, but as someone who made the world a better place. He was content, though he lived modestly. But most importantly, he had kept his soul. The shadow never appeared again, and Alexander knew he had won his battle. He had learned the most important lesson: true wealth is not in material possessions, but in how you live your life and what you leave behind.